The night sky of Accra glittered with stars, but inside the Campbell family's glass-walled mansion, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words. From the outside, everything about this family screamed perfection. Malik Campbell, a tall, broad-shouldered businessman in a perfectly tailored navy suit, was known for his confidence and charm. His wife, Nia, graceful in her emerald green modern gown, was admired by neighbors for her elegance and warmth. Their children, Amara and Kofi, were bright and well-mannered, always seen dressed in stylish, modern clothes that matched the reputation of their powerful parents. To the world, they were a picture of Black African success and love. But inside their home, cracks were spreading like veins across glass, threatening to shatter everything. Nia sat by the large floor-to-ceiling window, her reflection staring back at her in the darkness. She looked flawless on the outside, but her eyes told another story. For months, she had been holding together a marriage that was falling apart, burying her own pain so that her children wouldn't feel the weight of it. Her phone buzzed on the glass table beside her, but she didn't move. She wasn't waiting for messages anymore. She was waiting for something far more fragile: hope. Across the room, Malik scrolled endlessly on his phone, his jaw clenched, his expression distant. His silence spoke louder than words. He didn't notice the way Nia's eyes flickered toward him, full of longing and hurt. He didn't hear the unspoken plea in her sighs. Once, their laughter had filled this house. Now, it was a battlefield of silence. Amara, their 16-year-old daughter, stood at the staircase, her sharp eyes observing the tension between her parents. She had always been the one to notice details others missed: the tightness of her mother's smile, the way her father's gaze drifted elsewhere. Tonight was no different. Wearing a sleek black jacket over ripped jeans, she leaned against the railing, her thoughts heavy. Something was wrong. Later that night, Amara knocked on her brother's bedroom door. Kofi, only 12, lay sprawled on his bed in a t-shirt and joggers, scrolling through his tablet. She sat beside him and whispered, "Have you noticed?" "They're not the same anymore," Kofi shrugged, his voice laced with denial. "They're just stressed. Dad works too much, and Mom. She worries about everything." He wanted to believe his words. He wanted to cling to the illusion that their family was uncheckable. But Amara wasn't convinced. Her eyes darkened. "It's not stress, Kofi. There's something bigger. I've seen Dad's car parked at places he shouldn't be. And Mom, she knows. She's hiding it." The words hung in the air like a storm about to break. Kofi's face fell, but he said nothing. Deep inside, he knew his sister was right. The days that followed were heavier. Nia moved through the house like a shadow, her gowns flowing but her spirit weighed down. She prayed her children would never learn the truth. She had fought so hard to protect them, to preserve the image of a perfect family. But secrets, no matter how well hidden, always find their way to the surface. The breaking point came one evening at dinner. The family gathered at their long oak dining table, candles flickering overhead, the chandelier casting golden light across polished plates. The meal was beautifully prepared: roasted chicken, jollof rice, vegetables steaming with spice, but no one touched their food. The silence was suffocating. Then Amara spoke. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with accusation. "Dad, where were you last night?" Malik looked up, startled, his fork hovering mid-air. "Business." "You know I've been busy." Nia's stomach dropped. She had begged Amara not to ask questions, not to tear open the wound they had been hiding. But Amara was fearless. Her voice sharpened. "That's a lie. I saw your car at the Radisson Hotel." The room froze. Kofi's spoon clattered against his plate. He stared at his father, confusion and fear flickering in his young eyes. Malik's face hardened. "Amara, enough." His tone was sharp, commanding, but there was guilt in his eyes that betrayed him. Amara turned to her mother, her voice cracking with pain. "You knew, didn't you?" You've always known." The silence that followed was unbearable. Nia's hands trembled in her lap, her eyes brimming with tears. She had tried so hard to protect her children from this, to shield them from the storm. But the storm was here. Finally, she whispered, her voice fragile. "I just wanted to save this family." Kofi's voice broke. "Save us? From what?" Nia's tears spilled, running down her flawless makeup. She looked at her children, then at her husband, who sat frozen, shame etched across his face. The truth she had carried alone was now laid bare before her family. The illusion of perfection had shattered. Amara stood, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. "You think silence saves us?" "It doesn't. It destroys us." Her voice shook, but her courage didn't falter. Kofi lowered his gaze, his small hands trembling. His world, the world where his parents were heroes, was collapsing. Malik finally spoke, his voice rough. "This is between your mother and me. You don't understand." But Amara cut him off, her words slicing through the air. "No, Dad, you don't understand. We live in this house too. We deserve the truth." Nia buried her face in her hands, her emerald gown pooling around her like broken glass. She had tried to save her marriage. She had sacrificed herself, endured the silence, buried her pain, all to protect her children. But now, looking at their broken faces, she realized she had failed. That night, Amara and Kofi locked themselves in their room. Amara paced angrily, whispering, "There's more. He's hiding something else." "I'll find out." Kofi sat quietly, tears slipping down his cheeks. But what if the truth makes everything worse? Meanwhile, in the master bedroom, Nia sat alone in darkness, her reflection faint in the window glass. Malik had stormed out into the night, leaving her to drown in silence. The city lights glittered in the distance, but none of their beauty could reach her heart. She whispered to herself, "I tried to save my marriage. But in saving it, I may have lost my children." And somewhere in her heart, she knew this was only the beginning. The air in the Campbell household felt heavier than ever. The fight of that night still lingered like smoke after a fire, filling every corner of their beautiful modern home. Amaho stood by the large glass window, her reflection trembling against the city lights. She wore a fitted modern dress, elegant yet understated, but her eyes betrayed the storm inside. The secret she had tried so hard to bury had erupted, and now her children knew. Her family's perfect image was broken. Downstairs, Kwaku sat in silence, his broad shoulders slumped in his modern suit. Once a proud and admired black African leader in his community, he now looked like a man stripped of all certainty. His wife had hidden something so deep, so painful, that it shook the foundation of everything he believed about love and trust. His children, Ao and Thandi, hovered nearby, uncertain, scared to even speak. The sound of their nervous whispers filled the quiet room like fragile glass cracking under pressure. Finally, it was Ao who broke the silence. His voice, though trembling, carried the sharpness of truth. "Father, if love is real, then it cannot live with lies. Mama should have told us. You should have told us. We are old enough to know." His sister Thandi clung to his hand, her soft sobs echoing the fear of a child afraid her world might disappear. Amehel turned toward her children, her eyes red, her breath shaky. "My loves," she whispered, kneeling before them, "I thought I was protecting you. I thought silence would keep this family safe. But I see now it was silence that destroyed us." Her words broke the dam, and tears spilled freely. Kwaku rose from the sofa, his tall frame casting a shadow over them all. He had always been a man of strength, a figure of pride in his community. But now he was just a husband, a father, torn apart by betrayal. "Amehel," he said slowly, his deep voice filled with pain. "I built this family on the belief that we were honest with one another. You took that from me. How do I look at you and not see lies?" The question sliced through the air like a blade. Amahel shook her head, her body trembling as she reached for him. "Because what I did out of fear, not to hurt you, not to destroy us. I love you, Kweku. I always have." The children's eyes darted between them, their hearts aching with every word. Thandi cried out suddenly, her voice filled with desperation. "Please, Baba, Mama, don't let this end us. Don't leave us." Kweku's chest tightened. His daughter's tears, his son's trembling strength, his wife's broken honesty, everything collided within him like a storm. He could walk away. Many men would. No one would blame him. But something inside, deeper than anger, whispered that his children deserved more than a father who left and a family that shattered. Slowly, Kweku stepped forward. His hand trembled as he reached out, not to push Amahal away, but to lift her chin. His eyes met hers, filled with both fury and fragile hope. "Forgiveness does not erase what you did," he said, his voice breaking. "But maybe it can save what we still have." Amal's lips quivered as she nodded. "Then let us fight for it. For them, for us." At that moment, Ao pulled his sister into his arms, and together the children rushed into their parents' embrace. For the first time in weeks, the four of them clung to one another not as broken pieces, but as a family desperate to heal. Tears and sobs filled the room, but within that pain, there was also a flicker of something else hope. The weeks that followed were not easy. The Campbell household changed in ways no one could ignore. Conversations once buried in silence now spilled openly. Arguments came, but so did apologies. Slowly, laughter returned, fragile at first, but real. And Mahal and Kweku started counseling, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to admit they needed help. Outside, the community whispered. Neighbors speculated, friends judged, and enemies rejoiced. How can a man like Kweku forgive such betrayal? Some asked. Others said, Amal does not deserve him. But inside their home, none of that mattered. What mattered was Io's smile returning, Thandi's laughter filling the hallways again, and the look in Kweki's eyes when he held Amal's hand still hurt, but not hopeless. One evening, as the family sat together in their living room, dressed in modern casual outfits, Amal stood and looked at her children. "My loves," she said softly, "remember this truth may hurt, but silence destroys. Always choose honesty, even when it's hard. That is how families survive." Thandi nodded, her small hand clutching her mother's. "We will, Mama." Kweku placed his arm around Amal's shoulder, his voice steady though soft. "And remember," he told his children, "forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It is choosing love over hate and hope over despair." The camera of life zoomed out on the Campbells that night, not a perfect family, but a real one. A family that had bled, broken, and yet chosen to rebuild. This story of the Campbell family reminds us of a painful truth. Silence and secrets can destroy what love has built, but forgiveness has the power to rebuild what lies have broken. What would you choose if you were in Kweku's place? Would you forgive, or would you walk away forever? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, like this video if it touched your heart, subscribe for more African family stories, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today.